Commander Melissa Carter stood on the bridge of the USS Salvager and looked at the main screen. The ship rumbled beneath her feet as the engines pushed them forward through the darkness of space. The Salvager was not pretty. It was a mix of old parts from broken ships, bits of alien tech, and whatever else they could find. Earth did not have many resources left after fighting the Vornian Empire for 100 years. The big, shiny Alliance ships were fighting the main Vornian fleet far away. The Salvager was only sent to watch and report back. No one thought it was good enough to fight. It was too ugly, too strange, too much. Like trash, Melissa touched the worn captain chair, feeling the patches where it had been fixed many times. She was proud of this ship, even if others were not. The bridge was small, with just enough room for 4 control stations. Each station blinked with lights, some green, some yellow. A few red. Engineer Olivia Brooks spoke from her station without looking up. "The engine mix is holding stable, Commander, but I had to bypass 2 cooling systems. We can keep this speed for 12 more hours. Maybe less." Melissa nodded. "Thank you, Olivia. Keep an eye on it." At the weapons station, Grace Martinez ran a system check. Her fingers moved fast across the controls. She was quiet and serious, always focused on her work. The weapons were hidden inside what looked like junk parts. A clever trick that was Grace's idea. Susan Kelly sat at the pilot station. She did not want to be here. She was trained for the big Alliance ships, not this strange patchwork vessel. But she was the best pilot they could get. Now she guided the Salvager through a field of space rocks with careful small movements. The Salvager was on a simple mission: fly close to the edge of Alliance space. Look for Vornian activity. Report back, do not engage. But things were about to change. The communication officer waved to get Melissa attention. "Commander, we lost contact with Earth. All channels are silent." That never happened. Earth always responded. Melissa felt cold worry in her stomach. Try again. Different channels. After many tries, they still heard nothing. Melissa looked at her crew. All of them had stopped working. All of them were looking at her, waiting. The ship seemed more quiet than before. "We change our mission," Melissa said. "We need to find out what happened." She pulled up the star map on the main screen. "The only thing near us is this uncharted area near the Cygnus Rift. The Vornians might have an outpost there." "We go look." Susan turned in her chair. "Commander, we have orders to avoid contact and wait for backup." "I know our orders," Melissa said. "But if Earth is in trouble, we need information. The Vornians might have a new weapon, something that blocks communication. We must find out." She stood taller. "I take full responsibility for this decision. Set course for the Cygnus Rift." The Salvager changed direction, moving toward the unknown area. The engines made a low humming sound that vibrated. Through the ship, Olivia worked to keep them stable. Grace ran more weapon checks. Susan guided them carefully. As they got closer, sensors picked up strange energy readings. Something big was hidden near the rift. Melissa ordered the ship to move slower. "Use the asteroids for cover." Susan guided the ship between large space rocks. The Salvager's odd shape helped it look like just another asteroid. They moved closer to the energy source. Then they saw it, a massive Vornian outpost built into a large asteroid. It had many docking bays, shield generators, and weapon arrays. But what caught everyone's attention was the device at its center. A huge ring structure surrounded by energy fields. Olivia analyzed the readings. That looks like a wormhole generator, much bigger than any we know about. They could use it to open a path directly to Earth, bypass all our defenses. Melissa felt her heart beat faster. "Is it active?" "Not yet," Olivia said. "But the energy buildup suggests they are preparing for something big." Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Sensors showed a massive ship leaving the outpost. It was 3 times the size of the Salvager, with a sleek purple hull and glowing weapon ports. The Vornian Flagship, Eternal Glory. "They spotted us," Grace said. Her hands moved to the weapon controls. The communication screen lit up, showing a Vornian face. His skin was pale blue, his eyes yellow with vertical pupils. He wore an ornate uniform with many medals. War Baron Krell, leader of the Vornian fleet. His thin lips curved in a smile that showed sharp teeth. "Well, what do we have here?" he said. His voice was smooth but cold. A human garbage ship so far from home. He laughed, and the Vornians behind him laughed too. Melissa stood straight and faced the screen. This is Commander Melissa Carter of the Alliance vessel, USS Salvager. We are on a peaceful mission. Krell waved his hand dismissively. You are in restricted space in a ship made of trash. Your Alliance sends junk to spy on us. How insulting. He turned to, an officer, target that scrap heap, let the gunners use it for practice. It will make a pretty light show when it explodes. The screen went dark. Melissa turned to her crew. Battle stations, Grace Martinez smiled for the first time. That arrogant Vornian has no idea what this ship can do. Melissa nodded. The Salvager's appearance was its best protection. No one expected a ship that looked like junk to be dangerous. No one knew about its hidden weapons, its special shields, its unique engines. That was about to change. The Eternal Glory fired its first shots. Bright purple energy bolts flew toward the Salvager, and the real battle began. Purple plasma torpedoes streaked through space toward the Salvager. The massive Vornian flagship Eternal Glory continued firing in a steady rhythm, confident in an easy victory, on the Salvager bridge. Melissa shouted, evasive maneuvers. Now Susan gripped the controls and did something no normal ship could do. She spun the Salvager in a tight spiral. The ship turned at an angle that should have torn it apart. The first wave of torpedoes missed by mere meters. How are we doing this? Susan asked as she continued the impossible maneuvers. Her hands moved quickly across the control panel, below deck. Olivia worked frantically in the engine room. Her hands and face were covered in grease. She had connected herself directly to the ship's systems through a neural link. A dangerous move but necessary. She could feel the ship as if it were part of her body. The dampeners are holding, Olivia said through the communication system. The modifications I made with the salvaged Vornian tech are working. We can move in ways they can predict, but the system is unstable. I don't know how long it will last. Another barrage of plasma torpedoes came at them. This time one hit the lower deck. The ship shook violently. A section of wall plating fell from the ceiling. Alarms blared throughout the vessel damage report. Melissa demanded outer hull breach on deck 3. Grace reported. Automated repair systems are responding. She activated switches on her console. Weapons are ready, Commander. Permission to return fire. Melissa hesitated. Just for a moment they were a reconnaissance vessel not meant for direct combat. But the Vornians had given them no choice. Granted, show them what our scrap ship can do. Grace smiled and pressed her palm against a hidden scanner. Panels that looked like junk and debris shifted across the Salvager's hull, revealing weapon ports. Weapon systems that should not have fit in a ship this size. The Salvager fired. Its weapons were a mix of human and alien technology combined in ways neither civilization would have considered. The shots were not pretty like the Vornian weapons. No elegant purple beams, just hard concentrated energy that slammed into the Eternal Glory. On the Vornian flagship, War Baron Krell stood up in shock. The bridge crew stared at the screen as damage reports came in. How is this possible? He roared. The human trash heap damaged our forward shield. Back on the Salvager, Susan guided the ship through another series of impossible turns. The ship groaned in protest, metal strained against metal. I don't agree with this, Susan said as she worked. We should run, not fight. That outpost has a whole fleet inside. We can't win this. Melissa stood firm behind her. The other woman was right, but there was more at stake. We need information about that wormhole device. If they can open a direct path to Earth, another hit rocked the ship, sending crew members tumbling across the deck. Emergency lights flashed as primary power fluctuated. The Vornians are launching fighter squadrons, Grace announced. They are surrounding us. Melissa studied the tactical display. The small, fast Vornian ships were forming a net around them. They could not outgun all of them. We need cover. Susan, take us into the asteroid field. Susan looked back in, surprise. The asteroid field. Are you trying to kill us? Better the asteroids than the Vornians? Melissa replied. Just do it. Susan turned the ship toward the dense field of space rocks. Asteroids of all sizes floated in chaotic patterns, some as small as a fist, others larger than the ship itself. The salvager dove into this dangerous maze. The Vornian fighters followed. Their sleek designs made them fast but less maneuverable in tight spaces. 2 fighters crashed into asteroids right away. The others slowed down, giving the salvager a brief advantage. Inside the asteroid field, the salvager's irregular shape became an asset. It looked like just another chunk of space rock. Its heat signature blended with the background radiation. The Vornians had trouble tracking it. Melissa gathered her senior crew in a small meeting room while Susan kept the ship moving through the field. There was a hidden purpose to this mission, she told them. Alliance intelligence discovered the Vornians have developed quantum-locked shields. Grace frowned. Those are just theoretical. No one has built working versions. Not anymore. Melissa said, the Eternal Glory has the only working prototype. Our weapons can't penetrate it once fully activated. We were sent to confirm its existence and, if possible, capture the technology. Olivia looked shocked. You mean this wasn't just reconnaissance? You knew we might have to engage the flagship? Melissa nodded. We need that shield technology to save Earth. But I never expected to find something worse. She pulled up the scan data of the ring device. That wormhole generator is a super weapon. If they complete it, they could open a portal directly to Earth, bypass all our defenses. The ship suddenly lurched to one side. Alarms blared. Susan's voice came over the communication system. Commander, you need to see this. They rushed back to the bridge. The main screen showed the Eternal Glory positioned at the edge of the asteroid field. A large section of its hull had opened, revealing the front of the ring device. It was glowing with increasing intensity. They're activating it. Olivia said, her voice filled with fear. A bright beam shot from the device, tearing open space itself. A small wormhole formed in the middle of the asteroid. The vacuum pulled nearby asteroids into its maw. The salvager shook as the gravitational forces pulled at it. Susan fought the controls to keep them from being sucked in, then as quickly as it formed, the wormhole collapsed. The asteroids it had swallowed were gone, transported somewhere else. It worked. Krell's voice came through an open channel. A test firing. But soon we will create a wormhole large enough to swallow your Earth moon. And there is nothing you can do to stop us. The communication ended, leaving the salvager crew in stunned silence. Melissa looked at each of her crew members. We have to stop them before they perfect that weapon. But how can we fight against a ship we can't damage? Olivia studied the sensor readings. The wormhole was unstable. They don't have full control yet. They need more tests. Grace checked her weapons data. Our conventional weapons can't penetrate their shields, but maybe we don't need to. What if we could get inside their ship? Susan looked at her like she was crazy. And how would we do that? They aren't going to invite us aboard. A plan began to form in Melissa's mind. No, they won't invite us, but they might capture us. The crew stared at her in disbelief. Think about it, Melissa said. They want to examine our ship. They want prisoners for interrogation. They are arrogant enough to think we pose no threat if we appear damaged, helpless. Olivia nodded slowly. I have been working on something in secret. Mini drones disguised as maintenance bots. They would be compatible with Vornian systems. We could use them to gather intel, create diversions. It would be dangerous, Melissa acknowledged. But with communications to Earth still jammed, we have no choice. Grace checked her weapons. One last time. Do we run, or do we fight? Melissa looked at the screen showing the Eternal Glory in the distance. We fight, but not the way they expect. The salvager drifted out from the asteroid field. Looking broken and defeated, Melissa had ordered most systems shut down. Only life support and minimal thrusters remained active. The ship leaked radiation from deliberately damaged sections. Emergency. Beacons sent out distress calls in all directions. The plan was dangerous, but it was their only option. The crew gathered in the small meeting room for final preparations. Olivia opened a hidden compartment in the wall. Inside were 24 spherical devices, each the size of a small apple. These are my maintenance drones, she explained. They look exactly like Vornian cleaning bots. I copied the design from salvaged parts. Grace examined one. How do they work? Olivia activated a drone. It hovered above. Her palm then projected a small holographic display. They can interface with Vornian systems, gather data, create small electrical failures as diversions. They also have cameras and microphones, so we can see and hear through them. Melissa nodded. Good work, Olivia. She turned to the others. Once we are inside, we split into 2 teams. Olivia and Grace will find the shield generator. I will locate the wormhole device. Susan, you stay with the ship. Keep systems ready for a quick escape. Susan frowned. Why am I staying behind? We need someone who can pilot this ship through anything, Melissa said. If we fail, you take the salvager back to Earth with whatever information we gather. The ship suddenly shook. A tractor beam had locked onto them. The Eternal Glory was pulling them in. Everyone get to your positions, Melissa ordered. The Vornians must think the ship is abandoned. The crew moved quickly, hiding in secret compartments built throughout the ship. They had practiced this drill many times. Olivia released her drones. The small spheres spread out, hiding in air ducts and maintenance panels. Through the ship's cameras, they watched as the salvager was pulled into a massive hangar bay inside the Eternal Glory. The Vornian flagship was even bigger than it appeared from outside. Its hangar could have held 5 ships the size of the salvager. Vornian soldiers in full armor surrounded the Earth ship. They approached cautiously, weapons ready. The first team entered through the main airlock. Inside, the salvager motion sensors tracked the Vornians' movements. Grace watched from her hiding place as the soldiers moved through the corridors. When the first team reached the engine room, she pressed a button. A series of small explosions erupted throughout. The ship not enough to cause serious damage, but enough to create confusion and fear among the Vornians. Some were knocked off their feet. Others ran back toward the airlock in the chaos. Melissa, Olivia, and Grace slipped out through a maintenance hatch. They wore stolen Vornian technician uniforms taken from a previous mission. The disguises would not hold up to close inspection, but might allow them to move through the ship unnoticed. They entered the Eternal Glory through a service tunnel. Olivia's drones flew ahead, mapping their route and watching for patrols. The flagship interior was massive with high ceilings and wide corridors. Everything was built to impress, to show Vornian power and superiority. At the first junction, they split. Up, Olivia and Grace headed toward engineering, while Melissa made her way toward the center of the ship, where sensors indicated the wormhole device was located. Olivia and Grace followed a group of engineers. Their Vornian disguises worked as long as they kept their heads down and stayed at the back of the group. The engineers led them directly to the main power core, a massive chamber filled with humming machinery. This is perfect, Olivia whispered. We can access the shield systems from here while the Vornian engineers worked at the main console. Olivia and Grace slipped behind a large power conduit. Olivia released 2 more drones. The small spheres connected to a nearby data port. What we know about quantum-locked shields is mostly theoretical, Olivia explained as she watched data flow across her handheld device. The principle is that they create a field where matter exists in 2 quantum states, simultaneously making it impossible to damage. Grace looked confused. How do we defeat something like that? We find its power source, Olivia said. Every system has weaknesses. She studied the incoming data, her eyes widening. Wait, this is strange. The shield frequency, it's fluctuating in response to something. She worked quickly, tracing energy patterns. That can't be right. What is it? Grace asked. According to this, our ship, the Salvager, is causing interference with their shield harmonics, Olivia said in disbelief. The quantum lock can't maintain stability when exposed to the specific frequency our engines produce. She looked up at Grace. Do you know what this means? We can disable their shields. Grace realized. Not just disable, Olivia corrected. We can make them completely vulnerable. Meanwhile, Melissa made her way deeper into the flagship. She followed, the directions from Olivia's drone staying hidden when Vornian patrols passed. She finally reached a massive circular chamber. In the center was the wormhole generator. It was even more impressive up close. A huge ring of unknown metal surrounded by smaller rings all rotating at different speeds. Vornian scientists moved around the device making adjustments. Melissa stayed in the shadows watching. She needed to get closer to plant a tracking device on the generator. If they could track its energy signature, the Alliance might be able to develop countermeasures. She moved carefully around the edge of the room. Then a voice behind her made her freeze. "What are you doing here?" Melissa turned slowly. A Vornian security officer stood behind, her weapon drawn. Her disguise had failed. The officer spoke into his communication device. "Intruder in Section 12. Possible human spy." Melissa had no choice. She attacked. The officer was surprised by her speed. She knocked the weapon from his hand and struck him in the throat. The Vornian fell, but not before triggering an alarm. Sirens wailed throughout the ship in the engineering section. Olivia and Grace heard the alarms. "They've found us," Grace said. Olivia worked frantically downloading shield data. "We need more time." "I almost have it." Guards were approaching their position. Grace drew her hidden weapon. "I will buy you time." She moved to the entrance of the power core, ready to fight. On the salvager, Susan heard the alarms she had been monitoring. The teams progressed through Olivia's drones. Now she activated the ship's remaining systems, preparing for escape. Melissa ran through the corridors, Vornian soldiers in pursuit. She needed to reach the rendezvous point near the hangar bay. She rounded a corner and found herself facing a squad of Vornian elite guards. Their leader stepped forward. "Surrender, human. You have nowhere to run." Then the lights went out. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing the corridor in dim red light. Olivia's drones had caused a power fluctuation. Melissa used the distraction to slip past the confused guards. In the engineering section, Olivia completed her download. "The shield data is ours," she told Grace. "Now we just need to get back to the ship." They made their way through darkened corridors, avoiding patrols. Finally, they reached the rendezvous point near the hangar bay. Melissa was already there, breathing hard from her escape. "Did you get what we needed?" she asked. Olivia nodded. "I found something better. The salvagers' engines naturally disrupt their shields. It's not by design, just a lucky accident. The way our salvage technology interacts creates the perfect frequency to destabilize their quantum lock." Melissa smiled for the first time since the mission began. "That's the best news I could hope for." A group of Vornian soldiers appeared at the end of the corridor. They spotted the humans and opened fire back to the ship. Now, Melissa ordered. They ran for the hangar bay. The salvager was still there, surrounded by Vornian technicians who were examining it. Susan had seen them coming through the external cameras. She triggered the ship's defense systems. Electric charges ran across the hull, knocking the Vornians back. The team reached the airlock and climbed. "Aboard, seal all hatches," Melissa ordered. "Get us out of here." Susan powered up the engines while Grace manned the weapons. The hangar bay doors were closed, trapping them inside. "We need to open those doors," Grace said, "or we will be captured." Olivia looked at the data she had stolen. "They will activate the wormhole generator soon." Target Earth. Melissa made her decision. "We do not just escape. We stop that weapon. We stop it now." Alarms blared throughout the eternal glory. Vornian soldiers surrounded the salvager in the hangar bay, their weapons aimed at the Earth vessel. Inside the salvager, Melissa and her crew worked frantically to prepare their counterattack. "Susan, we need those hangar doors open," Melissa ordered. Susan nodded and activated the communication system, sending false emergency codes. Now she transmitted Vornian evacuation signals. The hangar systems responded automatically, opening the massive doors to space. Melissa turned to Olivia. "Can you amplify our engine frequency? The one that disrupts their shields." Olivia worked at her station. "I think so. But it will overload our systems. We might only get one shot at this." "One shot is all we need," Melissa replied. "Make it happen." She turned to Grace. "Prepare all weapons, focus on their power core and the wormhole generator." The communication screen suddenly lit up, showing War Baron Krell's face. His yellow eyes burned with anger. "You humans are more resourceful than I expected," he said. "But your little infiltration has failed. You are trapped in my ship. Your pathetic vessel cannot hope to damage the eternal glory. Melissa stood tall, facing the Vornian commander. That remains to be seen. Krell laughed. You have courage. I will grant you that before I destroy you, I will show you why your resistance is futile. He pressed a button on his command chair. The view on the screen changed, showing a massive chamber. The wormhole generator was fully assembled now, its rings spinning faster and faster. Behold the instrument of Earth's destruction. Krell said, Our scientists have calculated the exact coordinates. The test was successful. Now we will open a wormhole large enough to swallow your homeworld. All human resistance will end. The generator began to glow with energy. The inner ring pulsed with blue light. How much time? Melissa asked. Olivia checked her readings. They need 20 minutes to build up enough power for a full activation. 20 minutes to save Earth. Melissa looked at her crew. We have one chance. Susan guided the salvager toward the hangar doors. Vornian fighters moved to block their escape. Smaller and faster, they could easily outmaneuver the Earth vessel under normal circumstances. But the salvager was not a normal ship. Grace activated the hidden weapons system. The junk parts covering the hull shifted, revealing gun ports, salvaged Vornian weapons, modified human missiles, and experimental Alliance technology, all combined in ways neither civilization would have considered. The salvager fired. A barrage of missiles struck the nearest fighters, clearing a path. The Earth ship burst from the hangar bay into open space. The eternal glory turned to pursue its massive engines powering up the Vornian flagship. Was faster, stronger, better armed. But it had one weakness that only the humans knew about. Olivia connected herself directly to the engine systems again. Using the neural link, she fine-tuned the frequency harmonics. She could feel the power building, dangerous levels that might burn out the entire system. I have it, she said. The frequency is perfect, but our engines won't last more than 5 minutes at this output. 5 minutes is all we need, Melissa said. She turned to Grace. Target their shield. Generators first, then weapons, then engines. Leave the wormhole device for last. Susan plotted a course that would bring them in close to the flagship. The salvager spun and accelerated directly toward the eternal glory. On the Vornian ship, Krell watched, in disbelief as the human vessel charged them. What are they doing? He demanded. They cannot harm us. Activate the quantum-locked shields. The Vornian officers obeyed. Energy fields surrounded the flagship, creating the impenetrable defense that had made the Vornians confident of victory. The shields shimmered with purple light. Nothing could penetrate them. But as the salvager drew closer, something unexpected happened. The shields began to flicker. Where the Earth ship passed the quantum field. Destabilized. What is happening? Krell roared, Sir, the shields are failing. A Vornian officer reported. The human ship is emitting a frequency that disrupts the quantum lock. We cannot maintain shield integrity. Impossible. Krell slammed his fist on his command chair. Fire all weapons, destroy that ship. The eternal glory unleashed its full arsenal. Energy beams, torpedoes, and missiles all targeted the approaching Earth vessel. Most missed as Susan guided the salvager through impossible maneuvers. Some hit, causing damage to the outer hull inside. The salvager systems overloaded. Panels exploded, showering the crew with sparks. A support beam crashed down, narrowly missing Olivia. Hull breach on deck. 2, Grace reported. Emergency force fields are holding, but we cannot take much more of this. The salvager continued its approach. The quantum shields flickered more violently now, creating gaps in the Vornians' defense. Now Grace. Melissa ordered, fire everything. The salvager unleashed its hidden arsenal weapons that had been developed in secret by Earth scientists using technology even the Vornians hadn't mastered. The first volley struck the shield generators, destroying them completely. The second hit the weapon arrays, disabling the flagship firepower. The third targeted the engines, leaving the massive ship drifting. On the eternal glory, chaos erupted. The crew had believed their ship invincible, protected by technology no one could defeat. Now alarms blared as system after system failed. Krell grabbed a Vornian officer by the throat. How is this possible? He demanded. How can a human trash ship defeat us? The officer could not answer. The truth was too unbelievable. The salvager's unique configuration, its mix of technologies never meant to work together, had created something new. Something unexpected. Melissa stood on the bridge of the salvager watching as the eternal glory drifted powerless. "We did it," she said. "Target. The wormhole generator, Grace." End this before Grace could fire. The sensors lit up. With new warnings, multiple ships detected. Olivia announced, "The Vornian fleet is returning." A dozen Vornian warships appeared from behind a nearby moon. They had been hiding, waiting for the wormhole test to complete. Now they moved to protect their flagship. "We cannot fight them all," Grace said. "We are barely holding together as it is." Melissa looked at the tactical display. The Vornian ships were closing fast. They had minutes at most. She made her decision. "We don't need to fight them. We just need to finish our mission. Target the wormhole generator with everything we have." Grace aimed all remaining weapons at the ring device, visible through the damaged sections of the Eternal Glory hull. Firing, the salvager weapons struck the generator. The unstable device, already charged with massive energy, began to overload. Lightning, like energy, arced across its surface. The ring spun faster and faster, out of control, on the Eternal Glory. Krell watched in horror as the generator began to fail. "Evacuate the ship," he ordered. All hands abandoned ship, but it was too late. The wormhole generator imploded, creating what it was designed to create, a wormhole, but not aimed at Earth. This one formed inside the Eternal Glory itself, tearing the flagship apart. From within, a miniature black hole that began to consume the ship. The salvager turned away from the doomed flagship. Susan pushed the engines beyond safety limits. The Earth ship accelerated away from the growing anomaly behind them. The Vornian fleet scattered. Some ships were caught in the gravitational pull of the wormhole. Others escaped. The flagship itself was gone, pulled into the very weapon it had created to destroy Earth on. The salvager. Melissa watched the sensors as the wormhole collapsed, in on itself, taking the outpost with it. Their mission was complete. They had destroyed the superweapon and discovered the weakness in the Vornian shields. But the ship was badly damaged. Olivia engine modifications had burnt out most systems. They were drifting now with minimal power. "Will we make it home?" Susan asked. Melissa looked at her crew. These brave women who had fought against impossible odds and won. "We always find a way," she said. "That is what humans do." Grace checked the communication system. "The jammers are gone," she reported. "We can contact Earth again. Send everything," Melissa ordered. "All the data on the shield vulnerability, the wormhole generator. Everything we learned." The message went out. A beacon of hope, traveling faster than light toward Earth. The salvager might be broken, damaged beyond repair, but it had done what no other Alliance ship could do. It had found the enemy weakness and turned the tide of war as stars streaked past the viewports. Melissa smiled. They had called her ship a pile of junk. They had mocked Earth technology, but sometimes the most unlikely weapons were the most effective, and a ship built from scraps had just saved humanity. 3 weeks after their escape from the Eternal Glory, the salvager limped toward Earth. The journey had been difficult. Systems failed daily. The crew worked around the clock to keep the ship moving. Olivia had rebuilt the engines twice using whatever parts they could salvage. Grace rewired the weapon systems to power life support. Susan plotted the most efficient course home, conserving what little fuel remained. Melissa stood on the bridge looking at the blue-green planet growing larger on the view screen home. "We made it." The communication system crackled to life. "USS Salvager. This is Earth Defense Command. We have received your transmissions. Welcome home, heroes." The crew cheered. It was the first time anyone had called their patchwork vessel by its proper name, not garbage or junk or scrap. The recognition meant more than any medal as they approached Earth orbit. They saw the changes. Their message had reached the Alliance. The shield vulnerability data had been put to immediate use. Earth ships now emitted the same frequency the salvager had discovered. A simple modification that made Vornian shields useless. Dozens of Alliance vessels surrounded Earth. some damaged from battle, others preparing to launch. The war had escalated while they were away. The salvager docked at the main space station. Command officers waited to greet them. Admiral Catherine Washington herself stood at the front, her uniform decorated with medals, her face serious, but her eyes kind. Melissa led her crew. Out of the ship, they stood proud despite their torn uniforms and exhausted faces. They had accomplished the impossible. Admiral Washington approached them. "Commander Carter, your mission exceeded all expectations. The information you sent has changed everything. The Vornians have lost their advantage. We are pushing them back for the first time in decades." Melissa nodded. "We did what was needed, Admiral, nothing more." The Admiral smiled. "That modesty is admirable but unnecessary. You and your crew will receive the highest honors. The technical teams are already studying your ship. The frequency discovery alone would have been enough, but you also brought us detailed plans of the wormhole generator. Our scientists believe we can adapt the technology, develop countermeasures." "What about the Vornian fleet?" Melissa asked. "We destroyed their flagship, but there were many other ships." The Admiral gestured for them to follow. She led them to the command center of the station. A large holographic display showed the current state of the war Vornian forces in Red Alliance and blue. The blue was spreading. "When your message arrived, we immediately modified our ships to emit the shield-disrupting frequency." Washington explained the Vornians did not know what was happening. Their invincible fleet suddenly vulnerable. They retreated to regroup. "But we pressed the advantage. We have retaken 3 star systems already." Olivia studied the display, the technical information scrolling beside it. "But how did you implement the modifications so quickly?" "Our engines created that frequency by accident. A 1 in a million combination of salvaged parts," an Alliance engineer stepped forward. "Actually, we had been experimenting with similar technology for years, but we never realized its potential. You showed us what it could do." Susan looked skeptical. "So you had the answer all along?" The engineer shook his head. "No, what you discovered was unique. We would never have found it through conventional research. Sometimes, the best solutions come from unexpected places. From making do with what you have. From a ship built from scrap." Grace said with pride. "Exactly." The Admiral agreed. "Which is why we are implementing a new program. The Alliance has always focused on building perfect standardized ships. But your salvager proved that innovation often comes from necessity, from combining technologies in ways never intended." She turned to Melissa. "We want you to lead this program, me." Melissa was surprised. "Who better?" The Admiral smiled. "You saw potential where others saw junk. You turned weakness into strength. That is exactly what humanity needs right now." Before Melissa could respond, alarms sounded throughout the station. A communication officer called out, "Admiral, we have detected a Vornian battle group. They broke through our outer defenses. They are heading for Earth." The Admiral turned to the tactical display. "Show me." The hologram zoomed in, revealing 5 Vornian warships. They were modified, somehow different from the ones the salvager had faced. Their hulls pulsed with new energy patterns. "The shield modifications," the engineer said. "They are trying to counter our frequency. Can they succeed?" Melissa asked. "Possibly." The Admiral looked grim. "Our fleet is engaged. Elsewhere, these ships will reach Earth before reinforcements arrive." Melissa looked at her crew. They were exhausted, injured, their ship barely functional. But they were still the only ones who truly understood the Vornian technology. "Admiral, the salvager is still operational," Melissa said. "We can intercept them." The Admiral shook her head. "Commander, your ship is in no condition to fight. It would be suicide." Melissa stood tall. "It was always considered suicide, Admiral. Yet here we stand." She looked at her, crew silently asking their opinion. Olivia stepped forward. "I can get the engines working one more time." Grace nodded. "The weapons still have power. Enough for one good fight." Susan sighed. "I guess I should plot an intercept course." The Admiral saw their determination. "Very well, Commander, but you will not go alone." She pressed a button on her command console. "All available ships converge on Earth. Defense coordinates All pilots report to your vessels. Throughout the station, alarms sounded. Pilots and crew ran to their ships, but there were too few vessels in orbit. Most of the fleet was fighting elsewhere. Melissa led her crew back to the salvager. The ship looked even worse now. Its hull scorched and dented panels missing entire sections exposed to space but hastily sealed. The maintenance crews had done what they could, but it was still a patchwork of repairs as they prepared to launch. Susan noticed something strange outside their docking bay. Ships were arriving. Dozens of them, but not military vessels. These were civilian ships. Mining vessels, cargo haulers, private yachts, even old decommissioned patrol boats. All of them modified. All of them armed in makeshift ways. "What is happening?" Melissa asked. The admiral appeared on the communication screen. When word spread of what the salvager accomplished, civilians began modifying their own ships. Following your example. They want to help defend. Earth Melissa looked at the ragtag fleet gathering outside, a fleet of scrap ships just like the salvager. Not pretty, not standardized, but each one unique. Each one with potential, the admiral continued. They have all been fitted with the shield, disrupting frequency generators. They are volunteers, Commander. Will you lead them? Melissa felt pride swell in her chest. She had never asked to be a leader, never wanted to be a hero. She had just done what was necessary with the ship she had, but now others had followed that example. Susan prepared the launch sequence. One last mission, she said. Just, to be clear, I still think this is crazy. Olivia checked the engines. We have maybe 30 minutes at combat power. After that, the cores will fail. Grace armed the weapons. All weapons operational enough to do some damage. Melissa nodded, then opened a channel to the fleet. This is Commander Melissa Carter of the USS Salvager. To all ships, we face an enemy that believes in perfection, in standardization, in overwhelming force. But we have something better. We have innovation, creativity, the ability to find solutions where none seem to exist. Each of your ships is unique. That is not a weakness. It is our strength. Follow my lead, and together we will show the Vornians what Earth ships can do. The Salvager launched, leading the civilian fleet toward the approaching Vornian warships. The scrap ship that had been mocked and dismissed. The ship that had discovered the enemy weakness. The ship that had saved Earth once already, and would do so again. The Vornian commander saw the approaching Earth vessels. His sensors showed a mix of signatures. No two ships exactly alike at their center. A badly damaged vessel that seemed barely able to fly. He laughed. These humans send junk against our warships. But his laughter died when the first volley from the salvager struck his ship, passing through the modified shields as if they were not there. The Earth fleet followed each vessel, firing its unique weapons. The salvager's engines glowed brighter than ever before, pushing beyond safe limits. Olivia had rerouted all power, even life support, to maintain the shield disrupting frequency. The civilian ships followed their lead, each one emitting the same frequency from makeshift generators. The Vornian ships tried to adapt, changing their shield harmonics, but the Earth fleet was too varied, too unpredictable. Each ship approached from a different angle, used different tactics, fired different weapons. The Vornians could not counter them all. One by one, the Vornian warships fell. Their perfect, standardized designs unable to adapt to the chaos of the Earth attack. Their shields useless against the frequency they had never expected to face. The last Vornian ship turned to flee, but it was too late. The Salvager fired its final shots. The warship exploded in a bright flash that lit up Earth orbit. On the Salvager's bridge, warning lights flashed across every console. The engines were failing, the hull breaking apart. This was truly its final mission. Melissa opened a channel to Earth Command. It is done. Admiral, the Vornian ships are destroyed. Well done, Commander. The Admiral replied. Prepare for emergency evacuation. We are sending rescue ships to your location. Too late. Melissa thought the Salvager was breaking apart around them, but she felt no fear, only pride in what they had accomplished. Then Susan called out multiple ships approaching Commander civilian vessels. They are surrounding us, outside the viewports on.